Okay, we are live. Welcome everyone to our 1000 GM conversation player interview with International Master Robert Shlyakhtenko, a really amazing player, a brilliant player, and a top prodigy in Southern California, and really in the United States because his rise has been amazing. He's written for... Just double checking. Sorry about that. 1 second. Sorry, I'm getting an error. I want to double check that it's actually capturing it. My apologies. Okay, looks like we're good. Okay, I'm gonna start back with a top prodigy and one of the strongest players in Southern California. So, Robert, say hi to the audience and just give me a 10-second background on your life and, your chess accomplishments.
Okay. First of all, hello, and secondly, thank you for the kind words. So I started playing chess. I guess I can begin with that.
Yeah.
I learned to play chess when I was 4, I believe, and it was mostly just at home. It wasn't anything too serious. And when I was, I think, around 7, I went to the local chess club, which was the LA Chess Club in Santa Monica. And then I started to play tournaments, sort of fairly casually, but it was a good environment, and gradually I just got more and more into it. I started playing more or less every week, and got more and more into it. I started playing more or less every week, and to progress. I probably wasn't I didn't have the fastest progress but sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Sorry.
No, don't feel nervous at all. What you said is good. Elaborate on what you said is good on the fact that you didn't have the fastest progress. What do you mean by that?
So I started first of all at age 7, which is actually not the earliest. It's a bit late by prodigy standards.
Yeah.
And,
what is that normal age?
well, you see people like pushing their kids into chess maybe even age 5, age 6, and
Yeah.
or even starting at age 7, but really pushing it. And I wasn't really pressured into it. It's my own interest, and
Oh wow, it was your own interest?
meaning to say that I played the tournament because I wanted to, but I wasn't really feeling like I had to do this, or I had to really work really hard to go to that point.
What triggered you, like the very first thing you remember about wanting to play chess? Like what really triggered you to play?
I'm not sure. It just seems fun at the time, and it still is.
Friends, or was it family members that were like playing around you, or?
So the first memory I have is that my parents were trying to teach my brother to play.
I see. How old's your brother? Is he older or younger?
He was 3 years older than me.
Okay.
And I saw this new and interesting game which I wasn't being taught how to play, so I started begging them to teach me, and they thought I was too young at age 3. I kept begging for a couple more months, and then I turned 4, and apparently that was the right age.
Oh, so you had some exposure really early, just seeing chess, right?
Yeah, but again, I was playing.
Yeah,
against
you didn't really play
the computer. I was playing against family members, but it wasn't. I didn't have any idea of it being something more serious.
Right.
And we had no idea that there were things like tournaments, for example, or even a chess club. So.
Yeah, then you played your first tournament at 7, then, right?
Yeah.
And that was at the Los Angeles Chess Club in Los Angeles?
Well, funny enough, I think technically Santa Monica.
Oh, Santa Monica, yeah. That's right.
There's also Santa Monica Bay Chess Club, which is in Los Angeles. So
right.
That was just a really good environment. They had lectures several times a week. They had tournaments every week.
Yeah, and what time control did you first play?
Like beginner tournaments, I don't think we even played with clocks. It was
no clock,
informal. And basically, I just got interested, and I started going to all the lectures, started playing as many tournaments as I could, and there are a lot of books at the club that I started reading.
Yeah.
And sort of, I didn't get too strong quickly. I just got a lifelong interest
Right,
for
right.
chess.
It was just really fun for you at the time.
Yeah, it was a good foundation, I think.
Yeah, and then what spurred you to take it more seriously?
Well, sort of, I just improved, and I think within like a year or so, I broke 1200.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I played my first adult tournament, and as it turned out, that went pretty well. Um, I think I gained, it was actually my record, I gained almost 200 points in that tournament.
Oh wow.
And I wouldn't say there was a signal, but I mean, it was clear that this was working for me, and I was pretty interested in it. So I got a new coach, who is still my coach today, actually. It's Grandmaster Alex Strapunski from New Jersey. And I started working with him, and he was really effective in telling me what I needed to work on. Um,
Well, in case the audience doesn't know, Alex Strapinski is a very famous GM and coach. I mean, he's really big time. How did you work with him? You being a native of California and him living in New Jersey.
it was just by Skype, even though
Okay.
that was, yeah, I guess Skype was the biggest thing back then,
Yeah, yeah, definitely,
before
yeah.
Zoom. Um, yeah, he was just effective in telling me what I needed to work on, and so I did. And
How much work did you do a week? I'm just curious.
just once an hour.
Okay.
Basically, he would tell me what to do and give me lots of homework during the week, and I would do it.
Yeah, give us one example of that kind of homework. Would it just be puzzles or specific books or anything like that?
Well, basically, every single lesson would have a theme
Yeah.
based on what he thought I would was my biggest weakness at the time. So, um, for example, when I started, um, he realized that I had a basic positional understanding from my level, but my tactics weren't that good. So he gave me some book recommendations to solve lots of tactical exercises, and we started looking at topics like attacking chess, which really builds up the need to calculate and um, so forth. So he gave me very target exercise specific to that, and that helped me. And I continued playing as often as I could, and gradually, I think the next step, I made master at age 11, which was in
Awesome.
2016.
Great.
Um,
Yeah. What did that feel like to you? Was that hard for you to make master, or did you feel like it was just a natural progression?
it was an interesting thing. Like I think for every player, at some point there comes a point where after that it's sort of been kind of easy or not easy, but it's been natural. And then you just hit like a wall and you can't
Yeah.
break through. So for that for me, that point was actually right after I broke master. Like after that, I think my progress was, I mean, with some ups and downs, was fairly quick. And after that, I basically was just stuck there for a few years
Wait, where? What level?
at 2200, just
2200.
like
So you
around there.
basically
So I
got
was
stuck at.
just oscillating
Okay, and what's your
between those
rating
three
now?
points around. 2490.
Hold on, I've got some background noise. My family just got here. Sorry about that. So you got stuck at 2200, and now you're about 24 what?
2490.
2490. That's fantastic. I mean, just 10 points away from GM level rating. Um, let's start there though first. I don't want to jump straight to the future. Um, so you got stuck at about 2200, and what did you find to be the hardest to break through to that next level, 2400?
The thing is, I couldn't really find a specific thing that was going wrong, and that's very often the case. Like, you get a certain level, and it seems like you're doing everything right, you're doing the same things you did before, but there's something holding you back. You get a certain level, and by now you're like 2300 in, let's say, openings and 2300 in tactics, but you're still like 1900 in endgames.
Yeah,
You'll never get past that level. Just for
I see.
example, I'm not sure what exactly was the case with me.
Was it
Uh,
opening that you were missing, or
I'm still actually not sure. It was just some element, and
some opaque
maybe if I had
element?
found it, I would have improved faster. But basically, I just kept working, and at some point something clicked, and then again I had a period of good progress, and then again it's just a typical thing.
Yeah,
You
yeah. Well, because the next level becomes exponentially harder. As you hit
yeah
each level, it becomes exponentially harder. I'm only 2100 myself, USCF. My FIDE is super low, so I hit a plateau at 2000, and then I've been stuck at 2100 mostly because of lack of play. You have to play to actually gain points. But it is clear that there are, with at least with the players that I've interviewed, that at these points, these rating points, the ability, the skill ceiling is so much higher than the level before it that you really have to grind hard to make that next level. Did you increase the number of hours that you studied to get to basically to the IM level?
I'm not sure I really counted the hours ever, but basically as much as I could do without considering school and
Yeah.
without getting tired from it. Um, but yeah, there are periods when I was studying like 5 hours a day during the summer, for example.
Yeah. Is that like normal 5 hours a day, or will you study more when an event's coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most effective thing to do is like actually a few months before an event is when you really need to start pick up the studying because
Mm.
it takes a while for that to actually take effect. So to start like studying really hard, let's say 2 weeks before an event, might actually not help at all.
Yeah.
So that's actually the problem. For example, for me, because during the school year, I'm pretty busy and I might only have like a couple of hours for chess every day at best. And then the summer comes, and during the summer, I start studying really hard, but I'm also playing during that time. So, um,
Yeah. How do you balance that? I mean, first, is chess your number one ambition, or do you have other ambitions that you think would take priority over
well, I think
chess?
it'll be important for me to get an education and have a so-called normal career. But I think like no matter what, chess will be a part of my life and what I do.
Hmm.
Um, so during the school year, for example, like I just try to do as much as I can whenever I have a short
Yeah.
break, like um, in between classes, I'll just pull out a book and solve a few exercises and try to keep it up. But it's not easy.
Yeah, yeah, and that won't keep you fresh enough. I mean, do you play events during the school year?
I try to, yeah, if there's
Yeah.
something out there.
How has it been with COVID? Has that felt really hard to not be playing these events, or only playing online?
It's definitely changed a lot. I wouldn't say it's harder. In fact, I think during like 2020, for example, there were a lot of online events where it was actually easier to play really strong players just
Hmm.
because they were international events online. So I got a lot of experience playing GMs and so forth. So that was actually, I think, good for my chess.
Hmm.
Um, it was also a time a lot of people improved a lot during COVID, and
Yeah,
they're really
yeah.
underrated. So once I actually came back to over the board play, it was not so good for my. What was good for my chess, it wasn't so good for my rating.
Right.
Um,
Okay, so then let's switch gears to talk about what it feels like to play some of these very strong players. Um, I mostly want to focus on over the board, right? Because 1000 GM is going to have this inaugural event in in just a few weeks here, and you're going to be playing some strong GMs. Are you going to be chasing norms, right? You're going to be looking for a GM norm, right?
so in principle, yes.
In principle, okay. Um, so,
Meaning to say that I actually don't consider the number one goal the tournament.
okay, what's the number one
Um,
goal for you?
well, it always is like no matter the event. I think what works for me is just to focus on playing interesting chess, and if I can play like nine fighting games, that I consider a success.
Yeah,
And I think whatever else happens, like if I get a norm or not, that's more up to luck than anything else.
yeah, yeah. I guess luck of who you're playing and the average rating of your opponents and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many factors. Even how did you sleep? How did you eat?
Yeah.
How did your opponents feel on this specific day? Did you blunder your queen or not?
Right,
They're
right,
not things you can necessarily control, but like playing interesting chess, that's something I can try to control. And
right.
that's why it's the goal.
Great. So then, what does it feel like to play against, say, a strong GM? Do you get butterflies? Do you get nervous at all, or do you just approach it like anybody else? You
I
approach
mean,
the games
ideally, I think it should be just like you're playing just another person, but
right.
of course, you tend to take those games, I wouldn't say more seriously, but you treat them differently. I think automatically I'm trying to play a bit more solidly, and um,
What about preparing? Like this is a round robin event, so you're going to be able to prepare. How will you prepare for each opponent? And well, one interesting question that I have is that I think players approach differently. Some players will adjust their openings and style depending upon what they find from their analysis of the players' games. And some players will just play their repertoire like hard and fast. Where do you fall on that spectrum?
I think there should be a bit of both. So I spend a lot of time looking at my opponents, first of all, just the general play, but also if they have any specific weaknesses in the openings, so I can
Yeah,
try to target those. Um, but it's also risky to diverge from your own opening repertoire too much because um, most of the time, I mean, unless you have some brilliant idea, even if you um, target the opponent's preparation, get some advantage. If it's an unfamiliar position, that is often the deciding factor. So,
right.
remember one mistake I made? I was playing my first round robin tournament. It was the US Cadets Championship in 2019, I think.
Mm.
And basically, for it was a 7 round tournament. For the 7 games, I played a different opening in each single one, and it did not go well. First of all, I was just out of shape, but secondly, even when I was getting good positions, I was getting positions I didn't understand at all. And I think I finished next to last or something.
Yeah.
So it was a mistake I didn't make again.
Yeah.
But
So
at the
then,
same time, it's too risky to. It's also not good to play the same thing every single game. It just makes it too easy to prepare for you. So you need to
right.
find a balance, and even playing the same opening, you need to find a variety of variations in that same opening.
Yeah, and just generally with your style, do you prefer to play main lines or do you prefer to find more off the beaten sidelines to play?
That's a good question. I think I like to try to play main lines but with a twist. Like
Hmm.
I don't always follow absolute main theory. I try to have my own ideas always.
Yeah.
So, but rather than like making conscious choice, I think I just try to play what I think is good,
Right. Right. Of
to put it
course.
simply.
Yeah, and
So,
have you been inspired by any players to do that, or is that just something naturally that you like to do?
so in terms of openings, I mean, my coach has given me a lot of good advice. And I've also watched some lectures, for example, by Sam Shanklin, how he prepares his openings. So that I think has been very instructive. And
Great.
basically, that's just my approach.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, that's very interesting. Um, okay, let's move on to a few other questions about your preparation. Do you eat any special diet when you're preparing for games and tournaments?
Not really. I think um, I just scavenge for what I can find near the tournament hall.
Yeah, yeah.
And some people have really strong opinions, but about what to eat, I just sort of eat whatever I like.
Okay, that's
Um,
good. Are you try to eat healthier when you're playing a tournament, or you just stick to your
not
normal
really. I
routine?
mean, maybe I should, but
Okay. um, and what can you say about when you play your games? Do you do any do you have any rituals that you do to like calm your nerves or focus better? Anything like that?
Well, one of the things I do is like I keep a tournament diary,
Mhm.
quote unquote.
Oh, awesome,
Um,
awesome.
so there I'll just like before the tournament I'll just write down what I think about every single player and sort of the lines I need to review before each game.
Yeah.
And then like after the game I'll just make a few notes about what I think went well and what didn't go well and what my approach should be for the next game. And that's good during the tournament because it helps me really focus on what really needs to be done for the next game, but also after the tournament to sort of more easily see what went well and what didn't.
Ah, that's really interesting. You get a good perspective of your mindset and a record of how you felt about the
Yeah.
games. That's really interesting. Um, awesome. Okay, let's move on to a few questions about how chess impacts your life. Um, do you think that you sacrifice anything to play chess?
I don't think so, not really.
Do you find school pretty easy? Is that why?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
Just a matter of trying to combine everything.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Do you think you're going to have to sacrifice anything to go from IM to GM?
I mean, I think I'll just do whatever I can and sort of if it happens, it happens, and if it
So
doesn't, it
I get the
doesn't.
feeling that you don't really care one way or the other whether you become a GM. Am I wrong or right about that?
Well, I wouldn't say I don't care, but it's just something I'm going to work towards um, as hard as I can.
Yeah.
But it's not like if I don't make GM in the next 2 years, I'm going to jump off a cliff.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. Do you think you're just going to get it? I'm just curious if that's your mindset. Yeah, like if you just
I'm not
keep
sure.
working. Yeah.
My goal is again, I just want to be a better chess player tomorrow than I was yesterday, and wherever that leads me, I'll be happy. So I'm not really competing against like a title or against anyone else. I'm just competing against myself and how good I can be.
I love that mindset.
So,
It's a very healthy mindset to have because if you
so I
push
think,
yourself too hard, you might not even achieve your goals. But if you also don't work hard enough, you're definitely not going to achieve your goals.
yeah, what I would be disappointed in is if I knew I hadn't worked as hard as I possibly could have. But
Hmm.
if I did that and it didn't happen, I mean, that's just life.
Yeah. Do you think it's better to have a balanced life than
I
to?
think so. I think actually one of the things I like about chess is just that you can do so many things with it.
Mm,
So, first of all, you can play, obviously,
yeah.
but there's also coaching. You can, there are leagues, you can captain for those. Um,
You can
you can
write.
write.
Yeah.
Yes, there's journalism.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I want to transition to that because
Mhm.
I have to say that I'm very impressed with your development as a chess journalist. And you wrote for me in Rank and File a few years ago, and I've seen your stuff in Chess Life, correct? And have you gone in any other magazines?
No, I
Okay.
think that's it.
Um, well, I really love your stuff for one. I think it's really great. Everybody should go out there and read your stuff because you really put a lot of work and effort, and you do a great job of balancing the entertainment of it and the analysis. So it's a really good balance of both. Where do you think that comes from for you? Do you just enjoy writing or
First of all, thank you.
yeah?
Um, secondly, I don't know, I think in terms of like a writing style, it comes from just reading a lot of chess books and
Mhm.
um, sort of unconsciously you start writing the same way,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, and develop your own voice. Yeah.
Yes. Um, I really can't say that I have like a thought process when it comes to writing. Uh, I'm just thinking what I want to say, and then I just try
Yeah.
to find a way to say it.
Well, your love of chess really comes through, and I think that's a big part of it. Do you have any authors that have inspired you?
Inspired me for chess or
Yeah,
for
or just in
uh,
general? Yeah, I mean chess first,
specifically
but
for, I mean
yeah,
specifically for like in improving my own chess or like writing or something.
writing. Yeah, for writing. Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure. I think Botvinnik's approach, um, I like a lot just in terms of his approach to chess generally.
Hmm.
Um, As a person, maybe not so much, but
Yeah, no one can be perfect though. Like Fisher had problems.
Fisher had problems. Yes. But in terms of his approach to preparation for games and in terms of how self-critical he was, I think that's important, and there are a lot of takeaways from that.
Great, great. Let's see, what minute are we at here? Okay, so we're going a little long on the Q&A, so let's go rapid fire. I want a few word answers, maybe a sentence max. Okay. What do you do to relax?
These are tough. Okay. No, I will like watch a movie or just try to read a book, not necessarily related to chess.
Those go easily in line with the next question. What's your favorite movie?
This is even tougher. I'm not sure if I have a favorite one. I
That's
mostly
not
just
easy.
watch a lot of random stuff with them.
Okay, what's the last movie you watched then?
I watched an episode of The Office.
There you go. Okay. That's a good way to relax. What's the last book you read?
Last book I read, I just read an interesting book about Soviet chess championships.
Oh, cool.
It's called Masterpieces and Dramas of the Soviet Championships by Voronkov, I think.
Awesome.
So,
Okay, great. Let's see. Who is your favorite athlete outside of chess?
I'm not sure I have any.
Do you watch any sports outside of chess?
Myself, I do swimming,
Okay.
but I don't really watch sports that much.
Okay, you swim. Oh, that's excellent. I swam as well. I was 100 back. What's your event?
I'm not super competitive anymore.
Okay.
Like I used to be part of a swim team, but now I just more or less do it just to stay fit.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's go. What's one chess player, modern or historical, that is most underrated? That's a tough question, so you can take a few seconds.
There are several candidates, I think. I mean, I think maybe of the world champions, Max Hoiberg
Mm-hmm.
is definitely underrated, but
Great.
I think there are a lot of players that, for example, in the Soviet Union, that didn't get much attention because they couldn't play abroad.
Right.
Um, so Romanovsky would be one example, maybe Lipnitsky,
Okay. Great.
people like that.
Okay, I appreciate that. What's one of your greatest achievements to date?
Probably it was a tournament in Charlotte last year, an Iron Man tournament which I won with 7.5 out of 9,
Great.
and it was just a tournament where everything somehow seemed to work.
Awesome.
Probably the first and only time that happened to me.
Awesome. If an actor could play you in a movie, what actor would you choose to play you? It's a fun question. Like it could be anybody, Tom Cruise or I don't know, Hugh Jackman or.
I'm not sure. I think I would volunteer to play myself.
Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah. Well, you get all the money that way. What's one part of your game that you think needs the most work?
Trying to figure out how honest to be here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good. I know. It's a hard question because of that, because you don't want to give your opponents any big ways to
And
exploit you.
I think one thing that should be pretty obvious to anyone who has studied my games is I need to work on conversions of advantages.
Yeah.
So I would suggest to all my opponents that you get bad positions against me. That's a good strategy.
Yeah, Cyrus Lokdawalla told me that that's one of the hardest things to do in chess in general. So I think everyone can work on that. And then, who has inspired you most in your life?
Another good question. I'm not sure there's a single person.
Mm.
Mostly I just try to take what I can from everybody.
Great. Great. Okay, and then what is one thing you'd like to say to your fans?
Um, I guess that I wasn't aware they existed.
There you go. Hey, who knows when this they'll see this video? So it could be 20 years from now when you're writing thousands of articles. All right, great. So let's transition into your favorite game. Which one do you want to do first? Your historical game or a game of yours?
Maybe we'll do the historical game.
All
That's
right,
okay.
that sounds great.
Sure.
Share when you're ready.
So I was thinking for a long time about which game to choose, and I decided to choose one that's probably not so well known, mostly because it's missing from some databases. It's a game actually found in Larson's Best Game Collection. Um, I'll explain in a second why this game was inspiring to me. So the opening was a Czech Benoni, and sort of I have an interesting history with this opening. Uh, I remember very clearly how I once played this as white against FIDE Master Mark Duckworth, and I managed to lose in exactly 13 moves. So I decided this must be a really good opening, and I actually started working in it a lot and started playing it as black. I think it might have been an exhibition game, I'm not really sure. And don't quote me on that. um, so I started studying it as black and basically went through a lot of model games in this variation. This was one of them. So maybe I'll actually go back. I skipped through a bit. So black chose the setup. It looks a bit like a King's Indian, except the black's pawn is on c5 already. Which basically means black needs to try to play on both sides of the board. He wants to prepare both f5 and b5 at some point, and what's amazing about this game is that Larson sort of managed to do both. Well, I'm not sure he ever played f5 actually, but uh, he he played on both sides of the board and managed to combine threats both on the king side and the queen side. So he played knight h5 here. So in some cases he wants to play f5. White played queen d2 and castles. This is a really interesting moment because now if castles, black is ready to play f5 himself. Now that white's king has castled, he's not worried about any white's play here himself. And for example, white plays f4, black can play e4 with a pretty normal position. And otherwise, I mean, what can white really do? His only way to stop f5 is by playing g4. And this is Larson's idea. He wants to sacrifice a pawn here by playing knight f4. That was the whole conception of playing a6 and knight h5. So that's a very thematic pawn sacrifice. Black gets the dark squares, he opens up this bishop, and the big point is now he can play b5, activating all his pieces. White didn't have to play this way, and in fact I think the position's still pretty unclear, but it's just amazing how suddenly Black's position, which, for example, going back here, looked pretty passive, so immediately opens up and gives him so much dynamic potential. So after b5, White took, and Black was able to activate his rook like this. Yes, now he's 2 pawns down, but he has lots of open lines and diagonals for his pieces. Knight c3, he played rook d4. Exactly, yeah. So white castles kingside, there's always f5, for example. Queen e3, black played rook e8, and it's a really tense position. That was what was amazing to me. That we can get from Czech Benoni with a completely locked pawn structure to something like this, where black is down 2 pawns, but is really playing for activity. And after queen g3, which turns out to be a mistake, black can play g5, seizing the dark squares, because it allows g5. I'm not sure what he should have played actually here. Maybe castles was better or some prophylactic move. Um, one of the, like when I show this game to students, for example, like I often use this in lecture, attacking on the dark squares. Because here black proceeds to sacrifice another exchange. Well, another exchange, just more material. As the first exchange he's sacrificing with knight g6. And now if white takes, black plays c takes d4. If knight b5, rook takes e4. Turns out it's really dangerous for him because knight f4 is threatened, queen a5 is another idea in the radar, and white's king really cannot escape. And this, of course, loses to rook e2, followed by knight f4. Um, sure, that's right. So black can play rook takes c2, and after king takes c2 after knight f4, now the knight's hanging, and let's say the king moves somewhere. After queen takes d6, black has 3 pieces for 2 rooks, so nominally it's not really clear who's better, but these rooks are not doing anything, black's pieces are super active, and white's king is extremely weak here. So, right. White played bishop b5, and now comes, I think, the second exchange sacrifice. Black played rook takes e4. Again, it doesn't matter how much material he's down. Now he's down 3 points of material, but again, it's all about the activity of the pieces. Queen a5 is threatened, so white played castles. Larson says that bishop d3 might be better. And now it looks like white is safe, but black gets a few tempo moves in white's pieces. Plays rook b4, followed by bishop b5, at h4, and all the pieces are just coming up to the party. Um, so white tried a3, and now there's a very nice combination. He's ignoring the threat of the rook completely. Plays knight f3. After king g2, there is bishop takes g4. Okay, white can't take. Doesn't take much calculation to show why. I think this is just made by force. Right, so white had to give up the queen. And there's still some play here. Black knight, I think, is up 1 point of material, if I'm counting correctly. Which Larson wrote in his comments, which is an unusual experience for him. White played bishop e4. And after bishop takes b2, basically, okay, black has a passed b pawn, the king is still pretty weak, and black just needs to convert his advantage. Now knight f3 came. Black will win the h3 pawn. 2 more moves. Bishop takes b4 wasn't possible because the bishop d4 check. So now h6, the h3 pawn is falling, and pure black's plan is just play queen f3, and the pawn runs. And white just has no counterplay. Yeah. So I know I went through it pretty quickly, but this was just inspiring for me again how to create counterplay in such a close position. And it's a nice segue into my own game. It'll take a second for me to pull up. Yeah. Exactly. So he was able to combine a vast array of ideas in one game. So this is my game against Gabriel Sam, who is a really strong local player. This was played in early 2020, I think last tournament actually before the pandemic that they took over. So this is in person still. And it wasn't really a game that was meant to be a good game. this was played in the last round of a tournament, and I lost the previous game, so I wasn't really in contention for anything. So I just wanted to play a good last round game, but I didn't really go into it feeling like this is going to be a great game or anything. So the opening might look a bit familiar. I played this line mostly because I wanted something a bit imbalanced. Last game, White chose a setup with his bishop to d3. Here he chooses Fianchetto setup, which is also... Last game, White, good knight had a few games, chose a setup with his bishop to d3. Here he... So I choose the same setup as Larson. Now I'm able to play f5. And I actually had this position a couple of times before. In the state championship, I think, in 2019, my opponent took on f5. And I had a couple of games from this position. In the state championship, I played knight f6, then e4. Later, I decided it's fine to play e4 immediately too. And I won a couple of games like this. Instead, he played f3, which is a bit more passive. Lets me play f4, but it's also a decent move. Okay, so I took here. It's not clear whether this was absolutely necessary. I could have played a developing move here instead. I'm going pretty quickly because the interesting part is later. But yeah, I took here. Played bishop h6 to activate the bishop on this diagonal. Yeah. And basically, I'm trying to improve on the king side. He's going to try to play on the queen side with a3 and then b4. I played a6. The reason for this move is not so much that I want to play b5 necessarily. It's an idea later. But really, it's just prophylaxis because I wanted to play queen g5, but here I thought knight b5 might be annoying. And it's not so much that the d6 pawn is hanging, but also that he has this idea. So I played a6, a3, queen g5, rook up b1. And here I sank into thought, and I was really wondering, how can I improve the position? So obviously I need to attack on the king side, but I wasn't really sure how to open lines there. So if I actually want to just continue developing, and just still improve my pieces, I can play something like knight f6, then bishop d7, then double up on the f file. But even if I do all that, it's not really clear how I'm actually going to break through. And White's attack is going to be much faster on the queen side. He's ready to play b4, and then he's opening up the queen side. So here I sort of realized I have to already do something. And if it doesn't work, that just means this position is already bad. And I didn't really understand why this position would be bad because everything I'd done seemed to be logical up to here. So I found this move knight f4. Basically without much calculation, just because if I don't play this, everything else is bad. And if he takes, after pawn takes c5, I'm just threatening knight e5 held by bishop h3. And I wasn't too sure about this during the game, but according to the computer, black has a strong attack here. And it's pretty much natural moves here. For example, king f1, you can just play knight e5 and take here. And knight e3 is coming, opening up the file. So he decided to play queen d1. Okay, so eliminate the best defender, knight takes g2. And here again I have the same problem. If I just try to slowly develop the attack, he'll play b4 quickly, and I'm never going to get there on the king side as quickly as he is on the queen side. And he seems to be able to defend the king side pretty well. For example, he can always go knight g1 and protect f3. So I thought here for I think I like maybe 20 minutes, and I found a way to destroy White's position. So I played knight b6, which looks like an odd move because knight's not doing much here, and after b4 later, it would just be vulnerable here. But my idea was the following sacrifice. I played knight takes c4. After queen takes c4, rook takes f3. So sacrificing a knight and a rook.
Wow.
So the first point is White can't take the rook, because then after bishop h3, he cannot skip the mating net. Queen g4 is threatened, but apart from that, also rook f8. But what I really had to calculate for a long time was this move knight g1. Where if I retreat my rook, well, I'm down a piece, I have some compensation, but white's defending. So what I had to find in advance was this move, queen h5. Keeping the rook under fire. Now if knight takes f3, I have bishop h3. If the king goes here, I have queen takes f3, I think, and then just force mate on g2. Well, he can play queen f1, but he loses the queen.
Yeah.
And after king h2, I have not this move because of knight h4.
Right.
But instead bishop f1, winning white's queen.
Right.
And remember, there was a funny moment where I played queen h5, and then I was walking around. Then I came back to the board, and suddenly I calculated this variation again. And I thought I was dead lost, because I forgot this line with bishop f1. And I thought, oh no, what did I do? Again, I sacrificed its usual material without calculating it correctly. I'm going to lose this game. What have I done? Because I completely forgot this move bishop f1 existed. For some reason, I hallucinated I thought I had to play bishop g4, even though I'd seen this line before. I just forgot about it completely. Luckily, he didn't play it. I mean, maybe not so luckily. I think I would have found it if it happened on the board. But I was definitely in shock here for a few moments.
That's excellent.
Yeah, if queen e2, by the way, I can play bishop g4. This is really the nice line. Even though I'm down a rook and a knight here. I'm sorry, rook and a knight. He can do nothing to save the f3 knight and lose massive material.
Right.
So he played rook f1, bishop g4. He played a4 to stop b5 later. Rook f8, knight d1, so he's defending, and rook f7. So we've transitioned to a new stage in the game. It often happens when you're attacking. There are basically two phases. There's the revolution and then the evolution of the attack. So when I sacrifice knight takes c4 and rook takes f3, that's very much the revolution. I'm drastically changing the character of the game. Whereas now my goal is not to do anything drastic. I need to instead slowly build up, evolve the position.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I can do this is because all these sacrifices, they force white's pieces to defend. Now his pieces are passive, and I can afford to slowly build up my position for a while. So I started by playing b5, and basically I realized that all of white's pieces are tied down. In fact, his only moves are basically to play rook a2, rook a1.
Yeah, that's quite amazing actually in this position, because it looks like he should have more options. Just if I just looked at this position without seeing your analysis of the game, I'd be a little confused at what's going on. I mean, obviously the white king is weak, but I mean it's very interesting.
Right. I think one of the big points that takes a while to realize is that knight c3 or something wouldn't work. I think because of. Sorry, now I need to remember. I think bishop f. Sorry. Why doesn't this work?
There's a mating net, right?
I think I go bishop f3, and then somehow the fact that this bishop isn't defended is important. In g1, I think bishop b3 or something, and black breaks through. So maybe there's
You can add the engine if you want to get that right.
Yeah, let me just check this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this line is completely winning for black.
Yeah, then bishop e3, yeah.
Yeah, white needs the knight in d1 to keep protecting f2 and f2 and e3.
Yeah.
Oops. So I decided I can basically play a few moves that pretend to improve my position. They really don't do anything. But I played bishop g5 just because the bishop looks a bit better on g5 than h6 than for any other reason. And
right.
The same reason for rook f6. Now I play b4. It looks a bit weird, but my idea is I want to take away the square from the knight, but also perhaps invade like this at some point. In here, I sort of spoiled the position a bit, which kind of takes away from the game. I played rook f3, where instead I could have played c4. I'm not sure what exactly I missed here. this just breaks through. White can't take with the queen because the knight in d1 is hanging.
Wow.
And b takes c4 doesn't work. Again, we're combining threats on both sides of the board. That's the whole point.
Right.
Black can play bishop f3, and then b3
And
here.
then b3. Yeah, yeah. Wow. Now, why do you think you missed that? I'm just curious.
I'm not sure, I don't remember at this point.
Mhm.
It says here I missed the follow-up, which I'm not sure exactly what I meant by that. But I think I guess I missed bishop f3 and then in connection with this b3 idea.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's very interesting.
So instead I played rook f3 and went for this line. And actually this loses the advantage. My opponent was in time pressure, I remember, and he didn't find the right move. But he had this amazing resource with knight e3 all of a sudden. And then,
I mean, I have to admit, I have no idea what's going on here.
yeah, I also missed this during the game. I can't take on e3. The point is he has this fork.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So I have to go for some really unclear position like this. And there's 2 pawns for the piece. White's pieces are passive. Anything can happen here, but black has lost some of the advantage.
Right.
By the way, white shouldn't trade queens here because I think black takes in place bishop d1. And this is a bit dangerous.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is dangerous. Wow.
So he played knight b2, and now black just invades.
Wow.
And the final point is bishop h2.
Right. That's so nice. That's gorgeous.
So I think, yeah, basically my inspiration for this game was the Larsen game. They didn't have the exact same ideas, but some of the concepts were the same, and I think this is one of my best games.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a beautiful game, and the ideas overlap really well with the Larson game. I mean, the way you played on both sides of the board, and I mean, you missed the one tactic, but generally, you played quite a few moves that are very hard to play. Knight takes c4 followed by rook takes f3 is very interesting. Show that one more time because that's definitely worth just seeing again because it's just fascinating.
Right, this moment I think again it's not so much even about calculating this precisely. I mean, I had to calculate this a lot, but I wouldn't have if I felt there was a decent alternative. I
Right.
think the only reason I even searched for something like this, which the computer says is winning, but it seems totally unclear during the game, is because otherwise White has time to solidify his position. He can consolidate and start his own attack on the queen side. So
Yeah, and did you see rook takes f3 like almost immediately after thinking about knight takes c4 or
I had to see this whole line before I played knight b6, basically.
yeah, oh, before knight b6, yeah, yeah, okay, because otherwise your knight's not doing anything on
Yeah.
the queen side, right, yeah, that's fascinating.
And as usual during the game, you're either winning or you're just losing on the spot, and um, you feel really excited, but you also know you might just lose instantly, which has happened to me before.
Right,
um,
right.
so it's like the next few moves are always you're wondering, will he find a reputation or did you actually calculate everything right this time?
Yeah. Okay, well that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Let's go back. I want to ask you a few more questions before we end. We're going to end in about 2 minutes, but I wanted to ask you. Oh, hold on. I have to make sure I get this correct. Oops, I did it wrong. Okay, yeah, we're good. So I want to ask you about 1000 GM. It's this new organization that's starting up, and their goal is to get basically hundreds of tournaments going a year. And we're starting this first one in June. And you've graciously agreed to play in, and I appreciate that. How excited are you to have tournaments starting back up in general, and also for 1000 GM? You know, what does it mean to you that you're going to be able to play this event?
Well, I think what's different about this event from other norm tournaments is mostly just the fact that the entry fee is free. where there is no entry fee,
Right.
which is actually really amazing and really incredible on the part of the organizers. Because what I think most people don't know is normally these norm tournaments, they have entry fees of typically like $800 per player,
Wow.
which is incredibly expensive, obviously. And sort of if you want to get norms, if you want to get a title, that's what you have to do. So
Right.
what this tournament is doing is really opening a new pathway for people to get norms without such a huge financial investment, and it's really changing um, the landscape in this sense. So it's really exciting to me, and it's a huge project, and um, it's amazing that this is happening. And um,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
hope this first tournament in July will be the first of many.
great. Yeah, I mean, a lot of players have to travel to Europe to get their titles,
Yeah,
right? So we're excited that we're going to bring it here to LA, and obviously we're going to do some in St. Louis. So I'm pretty excited about that. Can you give us one thing you're doing to prep for the tournaments?
so right now, for now, I'm doing just general chess work, but once we get closer to the event, I'll know the pairings, and I'll be preparing very seriously, and obviously I just want to do my best.
Wait, I
But
want to
yeah,
ask though. Do you have anybody on the list that you think is your biggest rival?
um,
You might not remember the list, but I'm just curious.
I think Kirk Gazarian will be a very dangerous opponent. So
Yeah, he's another young up and coming prodigy. So that's going to be very exciting to see. Thanks for joining us, Robert. I really appreciate everything today and for taking the time to be here. And I hope that you'll have a great event.
hey, thank you so much for doing this. This is really amazing.
All right, thanks,
Take
Robert.
care.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.